Breaking news, and Dessie Farrell is staying on as Dublin senior football manager for 2 more years. The news is broke in the last hour or so, and it has officially been confirmed that Dessie Farrell is in fact not the new Dublin senior football manager, but the existing Dublin senior football manager, because he'll be carrying on for 2 more seasons. Obviously, here with the reaction, here with my thoughts to that news. I'm curious to know some of your opinions, obviously, as well, in the comments live or even down below as well. It is an interesting. I suppose it's interesting how it has come about, hasn't it? Because the past sort of month or so, really, since that All Ireland semi-final defeat to Kerry, like, there has been a lot of speculation. There's been talks, maybe is it time for Dessie to step away? Is it time maybe for a change? Is it time maybe for a new man to come in and do something different? And to be honest, in my opinion, I'm not sure really how to feel about this. Like, I'm not happy he's staying on for 2 years, but I'm not exactly disappointed either as a Dublin fan. Do you know that way? Like, it's one of them where if Jim Gavin's not going to come back, which I think is fairly clear that obviously he isn't, obviously, but if he was available and he was coming back, then I think, he's the best option. He's the best choice. But after that, I'm not sure. I think Declan Darcy's been a man that's obviously been heavily spoke about. And there was a huge amount of rumours that really broke about, a couple of weeks ago, which definitely did have a lot of substance to them. And I do believe that Dublin GAA were actively considering their options. They definitely were looking at what options were available to them. And Declan Darcy was certainly one of those options that was available to the Dublin senior footballers. And he was a man that, they would have certainly liked to come in as manager. Now, why that hasn't happened, I don't know. Have they just decided to stick with Dessie instead? I'm not exactly sure. I don't know the ins and outs, but certainly I'm fairly certain that there was some sort of communication between Dublin GAA and Declan Darcy. I'm fairly sure about that one. And, obviously he worked as Jim Gavin's assistant during the 5 in a row and everything else. He's a huge amount of experience, knows the players inside and out. But again, much like Dessie before he obviously took over as Dublin manager, Declan Darcy hasn't managed at senior level, at inter-county level, as far as I'm aware. So, that's one of them things where you're sort of looking at the options that are available. And I think in the end, keeping Dessie on is probably the right choice. But it's interesting they've gone with 2 years as opposed to a 1-year extension or a 1-year sort of term. Maybe a 1-year term would have been like, right, I think it's going to be very, very tough for him. It's kind of not giving him much room for improvement because, there needs to be a significant improvement in that year for him to stay on. But 2 years is interesting. And like, just looking through what Dessie has achieved as Dublin manager so far, he obviously comes in 2020. Well, actually, even going before that, wins an All-Ireland, of course, as a player for the Dublin senior footballers in 1995, wins an All-Ireland with the minors as manager, wins an All-Ireland with the under-20s as manager, then goes in to the Dublin hot seat as manager following Jim Gavin stepping away after the 2019 All-Ireland Senior Football Championship win. And things looked very good. I mean, didn't they? Look, the league was, it was fairly irrelevant. It was COVID, everything else that happened. It made things very, very complicated. But Dublin won the All-Ireland, and that was a huge achievement, as, most All-Irelands should be. And it's Dublin's last All-Ireland, probably now for a while, maybe potentially, when you look at how good Kerry are and you look at Galway improving year on year, some of the underage players coming through Tyrone. But, look, when you do look at that All-Ireland win, you can say the only real team of any significance that they played was Mayo in the final, and that was a Mayo side that, was probably not meant to be in that All-Ireland final when you think about it, like, in terms of they were in huge transition. Ryan O'Donoghue, Owen McLaughlin, Tommy Conroy, Oisin Mullen, all playing in their first ever championship season. So it was actually quite a remarkable achievement, really, that Mayo even got to the All-Ireland final in the first place. And that's not to take anything away from our good friends Cavan or our good friends Mead or anyone like that. But, clearly they're not at the level of winning All-Ireland. So you could argue the case that there was no real significant challenge for Dublin to win the All-Ireland in 2020. And 2021, like obviously shared the league with Kerry. Whether you look at that as any sort of achievement, I don't know. If there had been a league final, would Dublin have won it? I don't know. It's hard to know. The championship was very poor, very, very poor. Like the performances weren't there. Nearly got beat by Meath in that Leinster semi-final. Very flat against Mayo, even though the game went to extra time. I think a better team there probably beats Dublin, by 9 or 10 points in that game, to be perfectly honest. I don't even think Mayo played that well that day either, if I'm being honest. And then this year in the league, relegated from Division 1, fairly terrible, to be honest, as bad as I've ever seen Dublin in the league anyway. And, like 6 defeats in 8 games, one of their worst ever run in the, since the National Football League has been created. But then there's a bit of restority in the championship, given the fact that they cruised through Leinster. They swept aside Cork fairly handily enough, and then they play Kerry without their best forward in Con O'Callaghan and gave them as good as a game as anyone has this year. Galway came very close in the All-Ireland final, we know that, but Dublin and Kerry went down to the last kick of the game, and who knows, what way it could have went. If Dublin got a little bit more luck, maybe with injuries, maybe they could have come through that. I don't know. I'm not sure. But so in the end, like when you weigh it all out and you look at the decision, as I said, if Jim Gavin was available, I think he would be the ideal choice to come in as Dublin manager. And we all know why. I don't need to explain that. But clearly he, I don't know if there was any approach or anything like that, or if anyone, gave Jim a bit of a call and said, would there be any interest there at all in coming back? Probably not. Because obviously, he has openly stated that he has retired. And funny enough, he actually gave an interview a couple of days ago with the Irish Mirror and said that, he was obviously disappointed that Dublin lost and everything you would expect him to say. But interestingly enough, in the interview, he wasn't asked once whether he was ever considering coming back to Dublin or considering coming back to management. And that did make my mind scramble a little bit and think, why are they not asking that question? Is there something brewing here? But as we can see, absolutely no substance to it. And Dessie Farrell staying on as Dublin manager. The other kind of question mark as well is obviously during that spell, you had players opting out, you had players retiring early. Paul Mannion obviously opting out, Jack McCaffrey opting out. Now, when you watch Jack McCaffrey's interview on Off the Ball, I think he was probably going to opt out regardless of who was manager, even if it was still Jim, to be perfectly honest. But obviously Paul Mannion was involved in 2020 and then opted out a year later. So, he clearly loves his football. He's over in Chicago playing football at the moment. He seems to take every chance possible to play football other than when it comes to Dublin. So the question would be, if Declan Darcy came in or if another manager came in, would they be able to get Paul Mannion back on board? And, you have a full forward line of Costello, Mannion, Con O'Callaghan, with Kieran Kilkenny in behind. Maybe Dean Rock's in the half forward line, or maybe he's an impact sub coming off the bench. All of a sudden, you've got a very, very good attacking, team right there. So that's kind of the interesting one. But I suppose at the end of the day, Dublin have stuck to their guns. I do think Dessie is a Dublin legend, regardless of the relegation from Division 1 and everything else, and certainly does deserve the utmost respect. And I'll definitely back him as a Dublin fan, and I think all Dublin fans should, going into Division 2 next year. But there is some question marks there, and there is some doubts, and I didn't really see a way back, to be honest, but it is an interesting one. Gavin says here, one All-Ireland win and get into 2 semi-finals would be great for any other county, but Dublin, with the 6 in a row, maybe might want more, but Dessie still has 2 years to do something perhaps. And yeah, look, I mean, it is a fair point, and it's a bit like Kerry last year, getting to an All-Ireland semi-final, under Peter Keane. They win the league, win the Munster Championship, get beat by Tyrone, who went on to win the All-Ireland, And Kerry probably pushed Tyrone closer than Mayo. In fact, that they did push Mayo closer, or they did push Tyrone closer. So when you kind of look at that and you think that was a bold decision, and one that definitely could have been that definitely could have backfired, you know. And it is interesting because it's actually very similar with Dessie sort of getting Dublin to the semis. Maybe the only difference is Dessie does have an All-Ireland winners medal sort of in the bank, and he has that, I suppose, as leverage, I suppose you could say. But you know, it's interesting. It's you know, I'm not sure about it, to be perfectly honest. I would have preferred maybe a 1 year extension or a 1 year deal or whatever. You know, I do believe his term was up, so 1 year. But then again, is that putting the pressure on too much? Is that sort of creating a bad atmosphere amongst the group, because everyone's kind of thinking, well, he only has 1 year. What's the point? You know, so it's not like, you know, they can obviously make the decision to I suppose relieve his duties, as they say, at the end of next season if it's not working. But look, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting situation, really. And as I said, if Jim Gavin was available, you'd definitely have him back in a heartbeat. But clearly, he probably isn't. And Dublin obviously sticking with Dessie for now. Del Boy says, "How's things all? Come on." The Ross, yeah, all good, my man. Hope all is well with yourself. Who will be the next Roscommon manager? That will be an interesting one. James Horn, I heard, it's been linked, and Stephen Rochford. So, geez, you're definitely looking for a bit of sloppy seconds off the neighbours there. I'm just joking. But yeah. Let me know your thoughts, your comments down below in regards to the with Dessie obviously staying on for 2 more years, and is it the right decision? Should someone else have come in? Should there have been an outside man maybe come in? I've seen some people mentioning Jim McGuinness, and as you usually do, I don't think Jim McGuinness's appointment. I think Dublin's probably the only county where it wouldn't go down well, because everyone has vivid memories of Donegal in 2011 and 2014. So, but yeah, let me know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments down below. We'll be going live tomorrow morning as well at about 11 a.m. to discuss the best player from every county in 2022. It's going to be a bit of crack, bit of a laugh. Make sure to tune in, and yeah, do subscribe, do leave a like. Cheers for anyone who tuned in. I'll speak to you all later.